Last Epoch is the definitive ARPG. For beginners. I'm relatively new to the ARPG genre, so I never really understood how to play these types of games. I have played Diablo 3 and only scratched the surface of Path of Exile. If you know, you know. But a few weeks ago I saw Zizrin playing Last Epoch and I heard that the full release was soon. So I looked into the game and thought, why not? It's only $35, plus if I don't like it, I'll just return it and forget it. Well, safe to say, I liked it because I was blown away by how good the game was my first time playing. Last Epoch gets so many of the things other ARPGs get wrong, right. Like making a game that doesn't require 5 different external applications to play. Anyways, today I want to dive into the reasons I think Last Epoch is the definitive ARPG for beginners. Oh, also, I'm going to compare Last Epoch and Path of Exile a lot because I played more PoE than any other ARPG. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into it. Crafting in Last Epoch might be the most intuitive system I've ever seen in an ARPG. Let's compare Path of Exile to Last Epoch as an example. In Last Epoch, I can take a piece of gear and put it into the forge, then tinker around with it for a bit till I get a rough idea on how to craft. Now, let's look at Path of Exile. First, I need a base item. Then, I can use my currency orbs that could potentially brick my whole item if I roll the wrong thing. Then, if I hit what I want, I can use different orbs for other stuff. And when it's all said and done, now we can take that gear piece to the crafting bench and put more on it till you have what you want. But wait, there's more. You can also harvest craft, essence craft, and I'm sure I'm missing some. Now, by no means is PoE's crafting system bad. Actually, it's quite the opposite. PoE might have the best crafting system of any ARPG, but you get the point. Last Epoch takes almost every ARPG system and makes them new player friendly, which some people may see as a downside, but I see as overwhelmingly positive game direction. Itemization in Last Epoch feels amazing, mainly due to the fact that almost any gear that drops can be used in some way. Let's say you are using damage over time, and a quiver drops with tier 5 damage over time, but your equipped quiver has better all-around stats but lacks the damage over time. Well, in Last Epoch, you can put the item that dropped into the forge and potentially take that damage over time stat off to then have a chance of getting it on your current quiver. Not only that, the inventory has a sort button that auto-sorts loot and also has a button that deposits all your current crafting materials with the click of a button. It's seamless and more games need to take notes. Looting in most ARPGs is the best part of the game. Getting a new shiny item that meshes with your build is one of the greatest feelings ever. But most ARPGs have way too much loot to sort through. So in the case of Path of Exile, you would want to find a loot filter. But the problem with Path of Exile's loot filter is that they are never highlighted and only seen in the settings. So most players won't even know that you can have a loot filter. Also, they have to be gotten externally, meaning most players won't even bother. But let's say you do want one, so you decide to go out of your way and make one. Now you have to understand what you were doing, which in most cases you won't unless you watch a guide. Last Epoch solves this problem by putting in a customizable loot filter built right into the game. So if you want to look for a specific item that suits your playstyle, all you have to do is make one, which is miles easier than the loot filters I've used. Although, from what I've seen, Last Epoch also doesn't outright tell you that the loot filters are in the game. Just like PoE, they make the same mistake, which is a big downside as most players who don't know what a loot filter is won't even use them, let alone look. Last Epoch's launch was very rocky to say the least, but luckily the devs put an offline mode in the game, which I didn't think would be so useful till the servers were down on day 1, and are still being worked on 5 days later. Last Epoch having an offline mode means you can play whenever and wherever you want. Whether you're at your friend's house and want to get some levels in, or just on break at work, you can still play so long as you have a device to play on. Most newer games tend to be always online, so they won't even have an offline option. I'm glad the Last Epoch team put this option into their game. Last Epoch lacks the depth other ARPGs have, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing, as more depth often means more complications. Take the skills in Last Epoch for example. Each have a tree that impact how the skill works and how the skill is used. This makes things much simpler for the average player. Now, compare that to the gem system in Path of Exile. One of these is clearly more player friendly, and not only that though, Last Epoch also has passive trees, and these two are way simpler to understand than the PoE skill tree. Honestly, anything is easier to understand when next to the PoE skill tree. Last Epoch has a very visually pleasing art style and also very unique looking areas, which make playing the game and leveling that much better. There are 9 acts in the game, all of which feel perfectly executed as they don't feel too long or too short. They definitely hit the sweet spot with it, but it's even better than that because not only did they hit the sweet spot with the length of the game, they also hit the sweet spot with leveling, as leveling up and putting in skill points feels very good compared to some other ARPGs I've played. All around, Last Epoch does its campaign very well. The endgame for Last Epoch is also pretty well made. It lacks in some areas, but overall it's good for players new to the genre. Last Epoch's endgame system is called the Monolith of Fate. It's similar in ways to Path of Exile's mapping, but stays its own thing. Last Epoch also has Arena, which to me is the actual endgame mode. Arena is a never-ending mode that throws hordes of enemies at you until you either give up or fail. This mode is wave-based and has a leaderboard so you can see where you place in terms of wave survived. Think COD Zombies, but in an ARPG. It's very fun, and if you play, definitely try it out. These are my main reasons that I see Last Epoch as the definitive ARPG for new players. I know there will be some people that disagree with me, and I'd like to hear those reasons in the comments. But let me know, do you think Last Epoch is the definitive ARPG for new players, or am I crazy? Anyways, if you like this video, leave a like as it helps me out a ton, and if you want to see more of my content, consider subscribing as I plan to make more Last Epoch content in the future. But that's all for me today. I love y'all, have a good one, goodbye.